In this class 45 of our intermediate level refrigeration and air conditioning course, we are going to see the gauge pressures of the R507 refrigerant gas, its characteristics and substitute gases. The most used R507A refrigerant gas pressures are 1. To reach a temperature of -20 degrees C in the evaporator, equivalent to -4 degrees F, a low gauge pressure of 2.16 bar is needed, equivalent to 31.75 psi or 219.11 kilopascals. 2. To achieve a temperature of -15 degrees Celsius in the evaporator, equivalent to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, a low gauge pressure of 2.79 bars is needed, equivalent to 41.1 psi or 282.93 kilopascals. 3. To reach a temperature of -5 degrees Celsius in the evaporator, equivalent to 23 degrees Fahrenheit, a low gauge pressure of 4.33 bars is required, equivalent to 63.65 psi, or 438.93 kilopascals. 5. To reach a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius in the evaporator, equivalent to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, a low gauge pressure of 5.25 bars is needed, equivalent to 77.18 psi, or 532.13 kilopascals. 6. To achieve a temperature of 5 degrees Celsius in the evaporator, equivalent to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, a low gauge pressure of 6.30 bar is needed, equivalent to 92.61 psi, or 638.49 kilopascals. In some cases, it is useful to know the pressure of the equipment being turned off and the pressure of the high oil of the condenser. Let's go see them. 1. For an outdoor environment temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. The equipment turned off at this temperature has a manometric pressure both high and low according to the table of 11.81 bar, equivalent to 173.61 psi or 1196.65 kilopascals. 2. For an outdoor environment temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, the condenser temperature is usually about 10 degrees Celsius, above the environment where the equipment is located. Thus in the table for 35 degrees Celsius, about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The high gauge pressure in the condenser is 15.57 bars, equivalent to 228.88 psi or 1577.54 kilopascals. The R507 refrigerant is an isotropic mixture, that is to say, it has almost no slip. Therefore the temperature at which it is evaporating does not change if the pressure is the same. R507 has zero Zano depletion potential and similar qualities to R502 and performs well in commercial refrigeration systems used in supermarkets and was widely used in transport refrigeration. The correct lubricant for R507 is polyester oil. R507 has a global warming potential GWP of 3,985 and actually this is the main disadvantage of R507 against environmental restrictions. The use of R507 is now prohibited in new equipment and restricted in legacy equipment. Recovered R507 is still allowed through 2030 for service equipment already running on R507A. R507A has been designed as a replacement for R22 gas and also as an alternative to R404 and R507A. R407A has the advantage of not being flammable or toxic, and its use as a replacement for other gases in old equipment requires few or no changes to the system. Of course, the modification of some characteristic of the equipment that is working, when using R407A as a replacement, will depend mainly on the refrigerant gas that is being replaced. But not everything is perfect with R407A. Although the discharge temperature of R407A is higher than R22, R404A and R507, it is much lower than that of R407F. It is also important to mention that the main enemy of R407A is its high value of global warming potential, QWP. In this case, we are not only referring to the disadvantage due to the environment, but also the fact that for this reason its use is condemned to a few years of availability on the market. The discharge temperature of R407A can be about 20% higher, for example, than that of R404A, when working with an evaporator temperature of -10 degrees Celsius, and the discharge temperature can increase much more when using R407A, for example at -20 degrees Celsius. R452A is considered a substitute for R452A in equipment that is working because it has similar characteristics, is not dangerous or toxic, and has a lower global warming power than R404A, in addition to not requiring a change of compressor oil when it is replaced. R452A is a very practical gas, since it does not require system component changes and the equipment can remain practically as it was working before the replacement. Let's start by saying that R449A refrigerant gas, designed as a direct drop-in replacement for R404A and R507 gases in existing installations, with practically zero changes to the original system. One of the main advantages of R449A is that its working pressures are similar to those of R404A. Additionally, R449A has a GWP of 1397 global warming potential. But let us remember that the lower this value is in a refrigerant, not only is it better ecologically, but it also provides more stability of availability in the market and more stable prices. Although the power of the equipment where we use R449A now can drop a minimum percentage, if we use R449A in equipment that is somewhat oversized or that usually does not use 100% of its capacity, the difference will not be noticed. Another advantage of R449A is that it is not flammable or toxic. R449A is a very practical gas when it is necessary to replace old equipment that works at medium temperatures, since it does not require system component changes and the equipment can remain practically as it was working.